What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the 6-color palette. So let me talk about the palette and then we will go ahead and start painting. This is titanium white, cadmium yellow deep, cadmium red light, alizarin crimson, ivory black, and phthalo blue. So now that I've introduced the colors, I'm going to go ahead and start to paint. This time I'm not going to have a timer on me. Like I said, I'm going to alternate between different styles of uploads. So this one is going to be however long it takes, is however long it's going to take. So the canvas is a 9 by 12 inch. It's just a cotton canvas mounted on a board. As you can see here, the surface is slick. There is a light color oil paint. So I'm going to use the wet on wet painting technique for this one. So let me block in where the head is going to fit. Yep, somewhere around here. There's going to be a shadow about right there. And I'm painting completely solvent free. Hey Tipu, welcome, welcome. Completely solvent free, so I'm just using oil to thin out the paint. So this is where our shadow is going to fit for the neck, somewhere over here. So I like to work with different tones on the canvas. This time I'm using a light warm color. So let's say that that's going to be angle for the neck. The reference is a copyright-free reference from the internet. Again, I've had some issues with the copyright-free references, so hopefully we don't have any issues with this one. Time will tell. Alright, so there's the top of the head. The hair is gonna, let's say, come to about there. So I'm putting the darks down rather quickly, though, because this is a wet surface, I have to apply my paint brush strokes a little bit more direct, like that. But in the end, it'll yield a pretty, I'd say, fun result. So the model is looking up, so this is about the axis, I guess. Something like that for the eyes. Nose, somewhere up there. Mouth, somewhat over there. It's a little bit like, kind of like a robot is how we started. Now the palette is really useful because most skin tones, if not all of them, all skin tones under normal light circumstances can be achieved with a form of a neutral orange or a neutral pink. Some kind of grayed out orange or grayed out pink. Okay, so now we're going to let this be our dark brush. Change brushes to another one, and this is going to be our middle tone brush. Like I said, most skin tones are going to be some kind of variation between a grayed out pink or a grayed out orange. So we're just going to apply this over here. Like I said, this one is not a time trial, so I can take however long I feel like. like I said, some kind of grayed out orange or pink. We'll go ahead and put a plane change here already. Treat it like a sculpture. And we're going to do the same for the neck. Working with simple shapes of light and dark, but also already figuring out my vignette. That's going to be my vignette, the area that I leave unfinished to complement the areas that are going to be more finished. So we're basically going to go to town with all of these values. All the mixing, all the color mixing is going to be very apparent to you on camera. So let me know in the comments, give me some feedback as to what you, whether you're watching this live or as a pre-recorded, how you like those quick challenges. The quick ones are actually a lot of fun. I wouldn't do a 10-minute live stream, of course, because that wouldn't make any sense, but 10-minute portraits are kind of almost impossible to do. And whenever I can, it takes me a couple attempts to film one. So whenever I do get one that's somewhat decent, I will upload it. It's kind of part of my training routine off camera. Let's go back to the dark. And we'll change up this contour about like that. Maybe a little further back actually. Yep, something like that. Alizarin is a really important color. And for the live streams, I'm liking a little bit later in the day, so I can do a little bit of other work throughout the day. So let's go ahead and redraw. And these lines are going to appear, and they're going to disappear as I continue to add planes. And these are pretty much my best guess as to where the features will land at first. And then I add more specificity. Of course, with the 10-minute challenge, I would have already been finished by now. So this is how I work with a little bit more attention to drawing. Mark L. Thanks everyone for joining. I know this one was a little bit of a surprise stream. Keep moving this shape back, probably to about there. Shape for the nose. We can darken this a little more. Initially, I was gonna paint a landscape, and I kind of decided against it. Decided to go the portrait route. So William used violet and yellow. That can work too, and to be honest, any palette that has the primaries will work just fine. Today I'm just demonstrating this one in particular. It's the one that I'm going to use for the time trials. This palette here, I think it's the one that I used for the most recent time trial, which was a 10-minute. I think I uploaded that just yesterday, but I filmed it last week. I've got even a 5-minute time trial that I did, but won't upload. I might just upload it to Facebook or Instagram. A 5-minute portrait is insane. It's incredibly difficult. And I only did it because I knew that for Facebook and Instagram, I could only upload a 5-minute video, and everybody does time lapses, so it's just my challenge to myself to do it real time. No, I haven't visited the Hispanic Museum in New York City. No, I haven't visited there. Haven't visited there. Now we're going to put some highlights on the planes of the face. Nice and simple. Just titanium white. I'm not using any lead white today. I don't need it for these quick paintings. You'll notice that this style of video, I don't quite talk as much as the ultra fast 10-minute. Even with the 30-minute ones, I talk a little bit more. But with this one, I pay a little bit more attention to the process. Hey, Frederick. Looks like I painted a bull's head. I didn't notice that before. That's funny. It's probably this little dried piece of paint. That's funny. You'll find all kinds of little weird shapes on the palette, kind of like the Jesus face on the toast that you sometimes will see. That's like that same kind of brain thing. Our brains pick up patterns when they're not really there, but it's kind of funny when they do show up. Gouged his eye. That's funny. Okay, so now the placement of the features is getting a little bit closer. Not quite there. Now it's a horse. I don't know where you're seeing these things from, but I'll take your word for it. Now this early in, it's very abstract. And this is just the process that I use when I take a little bit more time. Again, any process that works. Okay, so now I'm gonna go with the phthalo blue and the white. I'm going to pull these shapes out to the right a little bit because I'm going to go in with the background soon. One of the things I noticed with my time trials is that I am a lot faster when I'm not streaming. And it seems to be kind of the case all the time throughout my entire YouTube career. It's been a very long career. I tend to always be faster when I'm not live streaming, no matter how much experience I have with the live stream. I'm just not as fast. It could be because I'm talking or I'm thinking a little bit more about what I'm doing. I don't know really what to tell you about that one. Need to put a little bit more alizarin. And I've said this before, but the realist painting, I've done a lot of realist paintings. We've done some Rembrandts where we spent a long time, made it nearly identical to the Rembrandt. We've done some Bouguereaus. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm just talking about paintings from the old masters. We've made some paintings look like pictures. But you know, the thing is, here's an interesting thing to talk about now that we're on this live stream. It's been a while since we've done one of these. The thing is, where does art go from here? There's plenty of people, plenty of youngsters out there that can paint really photographic, super highly realistic faces. It's a very formulaic thing, like this. Right? Light and shadow, get your highlights all in the right place, a mid-tone here, a mid-tone there, and you're done. But my dilemma, and it's always been something that I've been curious about, is the combination of art and video. And to a certain extent, almost like theater. Not that I've ever really done theater, but, you know, I want to make something for you, or for the world, that's a unique experience. Something that would be very difficult for the AI to recreate. Obviously, an AI can recreate a painting really closely, right? You can, I mean, even when I was in college forever ago, we had AI type things that created Rembrandt paintings. So even back then, I was like, well, something's gotta be different. That's always been my goal. To do something different, something unique to me, and something that I want to share with the world, something that can't easily be recreated by a computer. And that's what this experience is. Even me just talking to you about who knows what. Portraits have always been something that I've been drawn to since I was a child. Drawing Dragon Ball Z pictures. I would even picture, what my teachers look like, or my colleagues look like, or I guess I didn't have colleagues as a kid, but like, I just pictured the world in terms of images. Not photographic images, but just kind of like, I don't know, a shape here, a shape there, a line there, like here, like, I don't know. I've always kind of pictured things like that. So it made the transition into painting a very natural one forever ago. But, I could even just say this is it. And the point I'm trying to get at here, for those of you that bother to listen, is, and I get it, these are long videos, I understand you want to watch a time lapse of something, or watch a BMX rider do a quadruple backflip. Yeah, I get it. That's more entertaining than this. I know. But the thing I'm trying to get at is that realist painting, making something look very real, is it's a shy person's way of painting. And I've always been really shy as a kid. I kind of became a little more of a socialite when I went to college. Met a lot of really fun and cool people back then. I'm still meeting a lot of cool people to this day, even at the grocery store now as an older man, and shopping for the best discount on chicken that I can get. I've always liked meeting people, but the realistic painting is kind of more of a, I want to say, like a shy person's thing. Having the nerve to say something is finished when it looks unfinished takes courage beyond that of a shy person. And one of the reasons I don't even like doing live streams that much anymore is the analytics just bother the daylights out of me. I hate the analytics. So that's kind of a thing. But anyway, enough about the storytelling. Let's just paint now. I can allow myself, I don't know, 5 minutes or so of storytelling. Then we get back to work. Back to business. Hey, the Asylum Beyond the Dead, welcome, welcome. And I get it now, like if you look at art history, Rembrandt in particular becomes much less of a realist painter when he gets older. And when I was a kid, I didn't understand it. And even in his time, his contemporaries or his clients would just call him lazy, or just tell him that his vision was giving out or something like that. I kind of get it. What it is, in all honesty, is you're bored with the super realist type painting. It's very tedious. And you've been doing it all your life. You don't want to sit there and spend 50 hours knowing that the result is going to be the same as your painting that you just did 20 years ago. Why do you want to recreate the same painting you did 20 years ago? It doesn't make sense. It's that idea of something new. But not taken to the extreme where you become like Cezanne. I mean, Cezanne was kind of a whole different kind of painting. It's an odd balance, really. It's a very odd one. But anyway, I'll just let you ask any questions if you do have any questions. And I'll just paint along. I've got multiple different brushes as I switch from one value to another, one plane to another. I really like poses like this where the model is looking up with their head turned. Hey Jonas. Hey Grace. In perspective, a lot of this is compressed, and it's really cool to be able to capture that. So this is how I paint when I give myself more time. I allow myself more time. Can I do this in 10 minutes? Yeah, sure. I can do something like this in 10 minutes or in 30 minutes. I can. I think, yeah, we're already past 30 minutes. I would use a dry surface. I wouldn't use the wet surface like I did today. But that's not the point of this one. I'll let you have a dialogue with the brush strokes. Oh, thanks, Grace. I'm glad you like the short ones. They're a whole different kind of exercise, really. They're more portrait gestures. I've got a lot more to say in those short paintings. They're basically scripted. It's not that I have a script, but they feel scripted. It's easier for me to narrate in 10 minutes than to narrate in an hour or more. But basically right now what I'm showing you is something that society is all but lost, and that is patience and enjoying the quiet time in your brain. Alleviate that anxiety of the now. Even 10 minutes is really not that fast. Most of the content you'll find on the internet is not even a minute long. And I get it. I get why it's fun. I have a new found respect for skateboarders that I didn't have when I was a kid. I was a rollerblader when I was a kid, and the skateboarders always made fun of us. Oh, but I get it now. I mean, their injuries are far worse. Even at the pro level, rollerbladers don't have those kind of traumatic head injuries like once a year or something like that. I get it now. I get it. And that's all because of short videos on the internet. But this is a time and a place to just relax. You can go ahead and draw or paint along with me. I'm not going to disappear in the next 10 minutes or even 20 minutes. I'll stay here. So do whatever you want to do, whether you're at work, at home doing chores, at school. Do whatever you want to do. Portrait painting has a different feeling, and you know I don't like the word feeling, but it has a different feeling with each layer, or each stage rather. Each stage has a different feeling, and me talking to you as somebody with so many years experience with it, I'll tell you, it doesn't get any easier, you just get better. And it's a natural progression. A little bit of phthalo blue. Now let me tell you why I've got phthalo blue instead of the conventional ultramarine blue. And over the years, I've used many different blues, such as cerulean blue, phthalo turquoise, cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, and that's pretty much all of them I think that I've used. But phthalo blue on its own is actually quite nice because it is a deep blue, and phthalo turquoise is more of a yellowish, greenish blue. Phthalo blue on its own is actually quite nice because it can give you a really strong blue with very little effort, but at the same time it's not as overpowering as you may think. And yes, there is still still to this day construction going on upstairs. I can't believe it. I really hate this apartment, but I have so much understanding and compassion for everybody that's living in apartments where there's so much noise and you're trying to get work done, but yikes, all the noise. But anyway, the vignette's kind of working, right? I like the vignette now. And even though portrait paintings like this is not something that most people would want to buy and hang in their homes, not like pet portraits or landscapes or still lives, there's still something so, I don't know, mystical about a portrait painting. Something so neat about it. So different. And there you see the phthalo blue in action. Phthalo any color is scary, yes, and for years I was advocating against it. But now you see me using it as my only blue. So basically, for a 6-color palette, which is a limited palette, each color in your palette has to be strong. Every color on here is strong. Every color on here makes a big, bold statement. And you need that so that you can create a strong impact with light and shadow and with color, of course. But now you see that the phthalo blue is not that strong. You gotta know how to control it. I'd say that's pretty good for the hair. Now let's get back to the subtlety of the face. you see these planes start to take shape. Still keeping them rather sharp, kind of like a sculpture. But we're starting to get a sense of realism here. So even a little bit of phthalo blue doesn't do too much damage. I mean, you can clearly see its effect over here. But this limited palette is so effective that I can create a plane change or a color change like that with very minimal effort. Funny thing is, I've got a lot more brushes out than I do colors on the palette. Like I said, this is the same exact color palette I used for the time trial, the 10-minute portrait painting time trial. Different skin complexion with that one. So it doesn't matter what the skin complexion of the model is. Every palette will work just fine for any skin complexion. The color of our skin really doesn't vary by that much. Hardly anything. And that's one of the things that we as portrait painters notice right away. There's really no big difference here. There should be no need to ask or wonder how to paint darker skin versus lighter skin. No difference. No difference here at all. Hey NL, welcome, welcome. All skin colors are beautiful. All limited palettes are highly efficient, and there should be no difference between skin complexions. Take that mentality and throw it out the window. Now let me give you some advice on something that it's not often spoken of, but I think might be an important topic, and that's going to be paint materials. One of the reasons why I have a 6-color palette is because everything's so darn expensive. So you can get away with a cheap version of these colors. You don't have to have a cadmium red. You don't have to have a cadmium yellow. But if you can dish out the money for those colors, you just saved yourself a whole lot of money on the other ones, especially when it comes to blue. Phthalo blue is really not that expensive, but you can make a lot of really nice transitions with it, as if you had something like cadmium green or even cerulean blue. With the economy going to the dumpster, and probably everywhere, you want to be able to go to the store or purchase paints online with the peace of mind knowing that you're not limiting yourself by limiting your materials. No one asked about it, no one talks about it, but I'm bringing it up. The economy is going to the dumpster. So in order to be able to afford to paint, you have to be a little bit smarter about what colors you spend your money on. And to be fair, I'm going to be really honest with you. The expensive brushes don't mean a difference. They don't make a difference. They don't mean anything when it comes to realist painting, if you want to do realist painting. They make a difference if you're trying to do something like abstract, where the brush stroke kind of matters, the shape of the brush stroke. But with realist painting, what you're actually trying to do, like what I'm doing here, is you want to cover up the paintbrushes, the brush strokes. You want to hide the fact that a brush stroke was used. That's how you achieve this kind of realism. So what's the point of covering up the brush stroke what's the point of getting an expensive brush if you're going to cover up the brush stroke? Well, there really isn't one. If you can dish out the money for the brushes, then fine, get the brushes. But there's things that are more important to you, like groceries, rent, car insurance, taxes. Save that money for that. Don't fall into the consumerism aspect of art, especially if you're just beginning. It's the same with everything. Like something else that I do is I play pool, or you can consider it pocket billiards. And almost every beginner I talk to feels like they have to buy a different stick for breaking, doing a break shot. And that's pretty much, from what I've heard from higher level players, that's pretty much just a marketing thing. Someone with a $50 stick can break better than someone with an $800 stick if they have a better stroke. Same thing with painting. Someone with a $1 brush can paint better than somebody with a $50 brush if they have more knowledge, or should I say skill. Knowledge is useless without the ability to execute, and that requires skill. Skill is something that you develop through time. Like Bob Ross, the magic white. There's nothing magic about it. It was white paint with medium in it. I used my own version of that for this. It was just white, whatever paint was on here, because I painted over the painting that you saw yesterday. And that's it. There's nothing magic about it. It's just oil and white. You don't have to buy a container of magic white because it's magic. It's not. Just white paint and oil. I used safflower oil and linseed oil. Whatever oil you use, just make sure it's a drying oil. Don't use anything like a cooking oil or anything like that. Just buy linseed oil or safflower oil, and that's it. Nothing spectacular about it. Nothing highly novel about it. Nothing, I really gotta get that now about it. Don't fall into those marketing things unless it makes you feel better. And in that case, then sure. It's just not necessary. Yeah, you can use walnut oil too. I actually did put a little bit of it. I don't use a lot of it though. Just a dab of it. This is the one I have. I mean, very little walnut oil. This is the cold press. Very little. You don't really need a lot because it slows the drying way more than the safflower does, or the linseed. But I can guarantee you, I can make this painting, as long as I have these oil colors, I can make this painting with dollar store brushes. I don't, because I still have these brushes and they're going to last a long time. But if I wanted to, I could. It's the funny thing is this canvas has seen probably 10 different paintings on it. The time trial painting of the bearded man, and then the time trial painting of the lady that I posted yesterday, and then the 30-minute one the week before, all on this canvas. I just wiped out the painting. This one will likely not get wiped out because I spent more than 30 minutes on it. If I spend less than 30 minutes on a time trial painting, I typically reuse the surface. But the paint was starting to dry on this, so that's why I decided to do a longer painting on it, just to get the most out of this canvas. Now let's zoom in. I know you can't see the palette here, but you've already seen most of the color mixing. Thanks, Jonas. Thanks, Markel. Kind of funny. In a way, every single one of these paintings is a time trial, in some sense, when you do this on video. Never really thought about it like that, but it is. I gotta tell you something. Today's video was, and we're going back into storytelling mode for at least, I don't know, 3 minutes. This video was inspired by, and he'll never know it, but this professional, this game called Pyramid. It's a game similar to pocket billiards, but it uses bigger balls, bigger billiards. It's kind of like mini bowling. But anyway, this guy is a professional in Pyramid. But Pyramid is a game that's mainly played in Russia or Ukraine. Those are the two places where it's mostly played. It's very humble man from Ukraine. Is a member of my academy, and he decided to pick up pool or pocket billiards like, I don't know, a couple months ago, and has defeated most of the top players in this area recently in a big tournament last weekend, using a pretty cheap stick. I mean, it was like $150 stick, and he was gifted a more expensive one from a friend in Ukraine recently, like right after the tournament last week. And he was getting used to the stick. He wasn't used to it because as a professional billiard player, you have to be really used to what you're using. And he was getting used to it. And I saw him play a match yesterday with a different player, and he lost 7-8. 7 games to 8. He lost his match. He was furious. And what he did surprised me the most. He went right into practice. He went right into the drills that he was working on immediately after the loss. Right into practice. And that was his automatic response, was to go right back into practice. Most of us, myself included, after a big defeat like that, we just go home. We just say forget it. Like, I'm not happy today and I'm just going home. And so that inspired me, because a lot of these videos that I've done didn't really do too well on YouTube, and I just kind of stopped for a while until I got the courage to do it again, and then I would just stop. But inspired by what I saw yesterday. Anyway, that's story time for you. And I'm sure he'll learn how to use the new stick and be defeating everybody again. That's enough of story time. Kind of like that saying, when you fall down, you just get back up again and keep on trying. Never give up, that kind of thing. And I was like that for a long time as a painter, just trying to learn how to paint. Of course, I didn't have the pressure of the camera, and I was a kid at the time, so I didn't really have to worry about finances that much, but of course now I do. But anyway, I'm looking at these small shapes and just like kind of pieces of a puzzle and putting them together. This right here, I'm going to call it the $1 million plane. This is the dark light. This is the right here. This is the point in which the light terminates into the shadow. Called the dark light, but I'm going to call it the $1 million plane. And that's because I'm sure $1 million has been made by portrait painters in history. And this is the plane that creates the realism that everybody's so fascinated with, including myself. The difficult thing is describing it correctly. We can spend an entire lifetime trying to learn that. Again, the $1 million plane right there. The $1 million plane is evident in every form. Everything that has light and shadow has a $1 million plane. If you can capture that $1 million plane and describe it, then you will be on your way towards the realism. Of course, I'm not going to take a break in this one. I'm just going to paint right through. It's bad television to just take a break. I'm treating this like a TV show for you. Whatever mistakes I make here, I'll own up to them. My drawing might be off, my color might be off, oh well. I'm presenting the experience to you. getting to the point faster is what it's all about with this. Getting to this fine form kind of thing right here is what it's all about. I'm fascinated with this. I've always been so fascinated with it. It's like magic to me being able to do it. It's taken me years, many years of experience to do it. I've gone through many different phases in my life of painting. A big portion of it was working with color changes in the background, the color of the light in relation to color of the shadow, more impressionism stuff. The old masters had their way of doing things, and there's a great deal to learn from it. But the best thing we can do is take the most that we can from them and bring it into the future with other and more current ideas. And of course, it's a quote from Nelson, but getting to the point faster. I think those time trials really helped me out. Learning how to use acrylics, which I'm still using acrylics, by the way, for portrait commissions. I kind of like to use acrylic because I'm able to create something that will be dry right away. I just don't use acrylic for YouTube very much because there's no way of having the palette on the side. I haven't figured out a way yet to have the palette on the side. But this kind of stuff. Get to this point faster. Right? How do you do that? You focus on what's important, and you kind of ignore the rest. It's hard to do. I want to get to this point. It's taken me an hour 25 to get to this point now, but I want to get to this point in 25 minutes at some point in my life. And I know that faster is not better, but it makes for good TV. Having an intuitive sense for form and color is another thing that you develop with experience. My online classes on Patreon have all kinds of projects and lessons, all organized in playlists. But they're organized to a point now where you don't really need me. But my Patreon is there to, you can ask me questions on the messenger. You can work on a project and I can give you feedback. But it's to the point where you don't really need me. It's all organized. And again, it's $10 a month, so it's not that big of a commitment. But it's one of the better ways to get the knowledge from me about how to do this. yeah, I'm very happy and feel very fortunate to have been able to learn all this in my life, and hope to be able to pass this on to people. There's just so much we can get out of portrait painting beyond just painting. And I hope that today will demonstrate at least a little bit about that to somebody out there. Once again, I'm not cleaning brushes. I keep the brushes in a container of linseed oil mixed with safflower oil and now walnut oil. I don't clean the brushes because I'm in a small apartment. I have my Shiba Inu, and I will not subject him to the fumes that you get from turpentine and mineral spirits and stuff like that. I mean, I did use mineral spirits like last month, but I did notice something in my breathing a little bit afterwards, so I just rather not use it. Well, thanks, Lucas. I'm glad you liked the video. Thanks, Lucas. Glad you enjoy this. It's taken me a while to be able to get to this level in a painting in this amount of time. So I really appreciate the comment. When painting like this, there's a certain amount of just letting go that is only strengthened by doing shorter term paintings. Gives you that confidence. And there's something about, and I'm going to just have to say it, but there's something about just loving humanity, like really caring about people, that goes into being a portrait painter. You can't really be a good portrait painter and hate people. I mean, maybe you can, but it'll only take you so far. Your paintings may lack sensitivity. Sensitivity in a portrait painting is not something that can be taught. It's not quantifiable. It's something that is. And I've always really liked people, like I was talking about before. I can be shy, and realist painting to me is more shy than expressive painting, but I generally do have a positive connection with people, with humanity, despite how wild humanity is. It's the people that I meet in my lifetime that make me feel that way. and those of you that, I get to meet here on the internet. And this is a cheap brush that I got from the artist loft from Michael's. It's just a blending brush. Kind of looks like a makeup brush. I'll probably end up buying a makeup brush for this. Or just taking one of Lucy's. But then not. Obviously make sure she doesn't use it again. So you know what this means. The softening of these planes. We're almost at the end of this painting. And only focusing on the face has kind of been my trademark, I guess, throughout my YouTube career. Just kind of the thing that I like the most, I guess. Oh, thanks, Lucas. Somehow that's one of the things that happens with these paintings is kind of like the mind fills in stuff that's not there yet in the painting. It's kind of like when you see your friend from a distance at the at the beach, you can kind of recognize who they are, even though there's a sunset or all kinds of things like blocking the details. Knowing just how much detail to put in there to make it realistic from a distance is something I've been trying to figure out for years as well. But don't over blend, be careful, because then we can lose the overall big picture. So it's important to know which sharp edges to leave and which to soften and to what degree. Yeah, Janice? Now that completes the form for this area. And it's important to have enough paint on the surface to be able to do this. Now, knowing just how much is enough is, you know, it's an art form of its own. I will leave this sharp, and of course the hair I will leave sharp. I think this might be good for a thumbnail. Let me see if I can do that. gonna take a screenshot. It's kind of funny. I'll change the thumbnail, but you'll actually see the picture. This is a first. I don't think I've ever done this before. I'll take a screenshot. And now you've just witnessed how I created the thumbnail. Yeah, I'll change it from the original. At least, I think. But now you see from a distance, the form has emerged. Focusing on the things that are most important over here, forgetting about the rest. Letting the vignette be a thing. You can see this palette knife effect contrasting with the shapes on the face, you know, that kind of thing. Letting that be... Nope, I'm gonna fix that. You know, this gives me a little bit of anxiety now when I leave brush strokes above the face. And that's because one of the most recent portrait commissions I did, I left that, and they called me lazy. They basically just told me I didn't know how to paint, so I had to redo the background. Now you can see why I'd rather move on to doing pet portraits, but yeah, I don't want to leave that too brushy on the top. Now if I had a fan brush, I'd be able to soften that even more. But I mean, I guess that's the most I can do to soften that. I would definitely need a fan brush to fully blend those shapes out. But at least I blended it out a little bit. Alrighty then. There you have it. That is the painting for today. I guess I should sign it, right? I'm going to sign it on the bottom right. I left myself a decent spot right there for the signature. A little bit more realism than the previous ones, but they're all really good exercises. Okie dokie, there you go. The brushes are going to go back in their container of linseed oil. I will show you. This is how I maintain my brushes. It's not the healthiest way to maintain your brushes, but it works. And like I said, I just use linseed oil. here. So I don't use any mineral spirits, just dump the linseed oil in there. That's how we do it. I don't have to do this every time, but sometimes, I guess, I don't know, it evaporates or something. I don't know what it does, but sometimes I have to refill it, but not often. Some of these brushes have been maintained like this for over a year, and they still work just fine. So, you know, save yourself the hassle and do it that way. Thanks, Grace. Thanks, Lucas. So thank you all so much for watching. So with the streams, I think what I'm going to do is, for now, just stick with just faces. So head and shoulders, but mainly just paintings of faces. The streams will most likely be around 3 or 4 p.m. No more than 2 hours long, just because just timing and all that stuff. But once again, thank you all so much for watching. That was the 6-color palette. Hopefully you enjoyed this portrait painting. I wish you all the very best, and I'll see you next time.